With Derrius Guice here in Richmond, an interview a year in the making. We were supposed to sit down last year after the first game, obviously.
No, you stood me up.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened there. So I remember in the locker room, though, last year after you got hurt, you were like, no, I'm fine. When you found out that news that, like, no, I'm not fine, it's going to be a road back, what was going through your mind? And when you think back on that moment now, like, what do you think about it?
I mean, I knew at the moment when I said it was fine, it wasn't fine. You know, I just didn't want to talk too soon before the actual results came back. So I just didn't want everybody freaking out, and I didn't want myself to start freaking out in front of everybody too soon. You know, then when the results actually came, you know, I was just like, damn, you know, my season going on already, and it ain't even start yet. So it was pretty bad, man. I still think about that night every day, bro.
Do you really?
Yeah.
At what point did it stop maybe happening as much that you were able to like you think about that night, but I'm assuming at this point like something flips where you're able to push through and think about all the way you've come since then?
It's going to always be in my mind, bro. It just never held me back. Even right then and there when I woke up, you know, the next day I was, you know, preparing my leg for surgery, you know what I mean? So, like, it was just one of those things, you know, it's on my mind, but, you know, I still got to push forward and get ready for next year now.
At what point did you feel back? Or do you feel back?
I don't know, bro. Just doing what they ask of me every day. You know, it's not really a point of, you know, do I feel like I'm back? You know, it's just, you know, when I'm back, you know, when I get out there and when I start playing, that's when I'll really know. When I'm actually going against somebody else, that's when I actually know. Anybody can just, you know, come from an injury and run, you know, on air, you know, without somebody diving at you. That's when I really know when I'm actually playing against somebody.
With that in mind, how bad did you want to play the other night?
I wanted to, but I got to be smart with it. You know, I got to trust the coaches. You know, they're going to put me in when they feel like I'm ready and when they know I feel like I'm ready. So it's just all about playing it smart right now.
Your room obviously gets the addition of Adrian last year after you go out. Tell me about the first time you met Adrian Peterson.
I was like, man, it's AP. You know, somebody I watched growing up. You know, I didn't see him that much, you know, when he first got here because I wasn't around. You know, I was dealing with I had to go to Florida for my surgery. You know, I was rehabbing and stuff. So when he was here this season, I wasn't really around. And then by the time I do get back up here to start rehabbing with the Redskins, you know, he was, you know, it was off season, so he was gone. So I didn't really fully, like, you know, get to know Adrian and talk to him as much as I do now until we started OTAs and stuff in April, which he wasn't even here. He came like maybe twice.
Right.
So I didn't really see him until the little mini camp the last 3 days when everybody had to show. So I, you know, it's just kind of, you know, playing by text, you know, on phone stuff. In person, you know, he a quiet guy. You know, he don't really say much. He's one of those guys, you know, you got to really sit and like talk to him to open him up. He's not gonna just come and say X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? You got to get it out of him. And I feel
you're
like
shy, so I'm sure that's never happened.
I'm not shy at all. I'm asking him anything.
In the meeting room, was there a time where you're like, oh man, this guy he knows a lot? His football knowledge just stands out that you can think of?
I mean, in the meeting room, you know, he don't say much. You know, he just sit there. You know, we watch practice. We watch, you know, games from last year. You know, we write stuff down, and we just listen to the coach. You know, the coach is really doing the teaching in the meeting room. You know, the running backs are just there absorbing it and taking everything in and writing it down. He starts teaching when we get to the field and when we get to practice, whenever you're able to watch him do what he do, and then when you actually do what you do, him come and critique you right after. You know, everything isn't always a bad critique. You know, it could be, oh, I saw what you saw, good cut, good blitz pickup, good catch, you know what I mean? And then sometimes he'll be like, you know, I think you could have bounced it, or I think you could have cut back. Like, so that's just the type of guy he is.
Yeah, no, that was the last thing I was going to ask you about. AP. The first time you're behind him, he's taking a rep, and you get to see it that up close. Like, you guys, you know, it's one thing to maybe even watch from the sideline, but because of the way these drills are set up during camp and OTAs, mini camp, you're right behind him. The first time you see him really run, and you're like, oh, man, that's AP. What's that like?
It's like we know who AP is, but with anybody out here, you can never tell who they really are going against your brothers, you know, going against the same people.
Right.
You know, you really see what people could do when you see them doing in a game. You know, when you see them doing, you know, even in preseason, because you're going against somebody else. You know, or even joint practices, because you see somebody doing against somebody else. So you really see it whenever you're going against somebody else and not really your teammates.
When you talked earlier in camp to the collective press, you talked about the thing you learned the most was how tough you are mentally. What was kind of going through your mind in that moment? Like, what are the things you're thinking about your mental toughness over the last year that maybe you didn't know you had?
I learned a lot about myself the past year, because every year, football's always been in my life, and then the past year it wasn't, so just me watching everybody else, that was in my draft class, shine, get rookies of the year, just out there balling, and then seeing some of them, go down just like I did, with ACLs, broken bones, whatever it may be, it's just the nature of the game, man. You can't really be down about it. Injuries happen, this is the most brutal sport there is. You just got to get back healthy and get back out there.
The hard part of that is obviously going through rehab sucks. It's painful, physical, actual pain, mental pain. But how much of it also is just not being a part of a team, especially in a sport where team is such a part of it and you've been around a team your entire life?
It's like team is always the most important thing. You know what I mean? But in the National Football League, it's a business, So, if you're going to choose between, let's say Coach Jay or Coach Jordan wants me to watch, practice, and just sit there and watch. I would rather, be working with Chad or the trainers, getting healthy at that time, that y'all would just have me sitting around. You know what I mean? So, being with the team is always what everybody wants to be doing. It killed me watching them play every game, knowing I wasn't on the field with them. But also I knew it was for me to get back out there. It was, it was because I was, rehabbing and getting stronger to get back out there with them. So sometimes you got to miss the stuff you love to get it back.
Yeah, a couple more minutes, just 2-3 more questions real quick. I know you're trying to get out of here. You got rehab and cold tub and all that kind of stuff to do right now. As you get worked back into it and all this kind of stuff, was there any specific part of the game that you felt come back quicker? The protections or things like running the football, getting out of the backfield. What parts of the game kind of came back in what order? I
mean, none of it left. It was just
that's nice.
Me physically not being able to be out there.
Right.
My speed, I got it back. My blitz pickup never left. My vision's still the same. My catching. It's just all a matter of me actually getting back out there physically and doing it.
The mental stuff.
Just couldn't do it.
Yeah, the processing and all that kind of stuff. Do you feel more comfortable with it this year just because you've been around the system for a year, or does it kind of feel like it did last year?
Well, I mean, I wasn't really around it the past year, you know, because when they were playing and having meetings and stuff, I was in Florida, during the season, so I wasn't really around. It's just easy to me. Like, it comes to me naturally, I remember stuff easily. I have a good photographic memory, so if Coach Jordan shows us 10 plays right now after this practice, I remember them when it's time for walkthrough, which we don't have anymore, but I remember them. It's just one of those things, and you remember stuff the more you do it, muscle memory. The more you do stuff, the more you remember it and the more you don't lose it. So me going through a whole OTA session last year and all of training camp, I ran all these plays. So, all it is now is just doing the same thing. Now I'm just ready to do it against somebody else.
No doubt. Last question for you. I've asked everybody this question, so it's the last question of every single interview we've done at camp. When you lay down in bed at night, you're thinking about football, your goals, your success in 2019. What's that look like for you? What do those dreams of success in 2019 look like?
I don't think about that. I think about my health.
Really? What's that?
That's first. Without being healthy, there is no dreams and all that stuff, 2019. If I can't play, there is none of that. So I think about my health every night.
When you visualize that, though, is it like you running fast, like no knee brace, all that kind of stuff? Like, what is the
visualize it?
It's just
it's just me being me again. Me being out there, being Guice from LSU, from high school. That's what I'm picturing that night. Just me getting back to me.
Look forward to seeing that on the field in a Redskins uniform.
Appreciate you, bro.
Derrius Guice with us on 106.7 The Fan.